say something.
They're gonna do the same thing again.
Go.
All right, welcome back to the Joey Plays Games podcast. This is week 3 of doing the podcast. We this week we're breaking down all your nerdy news that you need to know about, and episode 4 of WandaVision. So we got a lot to talk about this week. This week's episode was pretty massive for the storytelling beats, and we also had a lot of really cool news to talk about. So let's get right into it. But I want everybody off the start. We have to acknowledge that our 5th co-host is missing. Owen, he's the fallen comrade. School got him.
Rest in peace.
R.I.P. Hopefully he'll be back next
Or
week
the
to join
alcohol.
us.
Never mind.
But also we're in a new setting. We've upgraded our background a little bit. We're not stuck in the 50s and 60s anymore. We've got a new picture. And but we've also added some technical upgrades. So now, when we talk about the news, you guys can look at the news stories with us. So we're going to start off with the news story from the Hollywood Reporter that there is a Harry Potter live-action TV series in development over at HBO Max. This was an exclusive that broke, I believe, Monday morning. It really did have the world on fire for a little bit because everybody was like, "Why? What is this?" And then there was conflicting reports that it's not canceled or that it's not a thing. And then Matt's like, I just don't care. And I'm like, all right, but Ronnie.
I'm like Sweden. I'm neutral.
Huh?
Good to know.
Neutral Sweden. Ronnie had some thoughts on this one. So I
just wanted to ask more. I just wanted to ask more about it.
Okay.
I'm interested because I've seen the Harry Potter movies. And I've read like one of the books ish, and I'm reading one right now for a class. But you said this takes place after, or it's like some kind of reset.
Nobody knows. It was just that the series is in development, and executives in the story it says here, no writers or talent are currently attached as the conversations are still in extremely early stages, and no deals have been made. Quote, there are no Harry Potter series in development at the studio or on the streaming platform, THR reported. Or HBO and Warner said to THR. But apparently they have this from a reliable source. So, but it's not supposed to be imminent. It's supposed to be very much later on down the road of when we'll eventually see this.
Interesting.
So,
well, I can see it happening.
I can see it happening.
I feel like HBO has taken a lot of major franchises with Warner Brothers to kind of forward these stories, and I don't want to say it's just like a cash grab. I feel like they do put a lot of passion or at least effort into what they're trying to do with all the franchises they have, especially with like DC and stuff like that. So I feel like it's definitely possible, and I feel like if they play with it carefully, it can be done right. I don't think there's a lot that you can mess up with Harry Potter, at least now.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, I don't think there's much really to the story more than that. So we'll move on to the next small story. We've got a couple of small stories here to close out before we get into the meaty juices of this week's episode. The first thing was on Tuesday. Black Widow's runtime was confirmed to be 133 minutes long. It was spotted on Disney's UK site. Again, another little small story, but it's nice to see that the runtime is being confirmed. So that means the edit's finished. It's really ready to go now.
What's the runtime at, Jim?
2 hours and 13 minutes. So,
damn, that's a good amount.
It's
a solid amount.
Yeah, it's not too long and not too short. So I think it'll hit a nice sweet spot in there when it eventually does drop in theaters and maybe on Disney Plus. Anybody else have any big thoughts about that?
How are we feeling about Black Widow?
Pretty much what Joe said. I mean, I was excited for it. I feel like when I first heard about it, I thought it was kind of redundant considering the fact that she died in Endgame. But I feel like I've heard a lot of people kind of speculate with the movie as time has gone on. That has brought a lot of interest to it. Kind of like the fact that it could be doing things to set up for later events with characters that we have not seen yet during that time. I'm excited for it. I wish it came sooner rather than later, but at least knowing that it's just safe to know that it's all ready and set to go whenever they're ready to release. So I think that's good.
Yeah, I mean, on that point, you are correct that when it's originally announced, it was kind of like, wait, she died. Why is this being made? And it's like, this is
Too little, too late.
little too late. We needed this story a while ago, but instead it looks like this is going to be setting up a possible another Black Widow to take up the mantle, and her sister and
Florence Pugh.
Florence Pugh, a great up-and-coming
Actress.
We're not gender biased.
Oh.
It can be actor or actor.
Canceled.
I ain't trying to get canceled out here.
It already happened.
Really?
But
Alright.
yeah, it's already rumored that Florence Pugh will reprise her role as possibly Black Widow in Hawkeye in the TV series later this year. So it'll be interesting to see how this goes, especially if it does drop on Disney Plus or not. Nick's so beside himself right now.
Can I just say that?
Yeah.
I think, I wasn't really excited for Black Widow at first. I didn't care for her character, but I saw the trailer and that shit looked pretty badass. So just solely off the trailer, I'm excited.
Yeah. There were cool beats and
Taskmaster and shit.
yeah, exactly. Taskmaster is a big one.
Oh,
So
it's got a nice bicycle helmet, one of the ones you see on like those BMX races, but it looks cool. Ski mask. Sorry.
Yeah.
It looks cool though.
Good God. All right. The next story is the release date of the Amazon original animated series Invincible. This is more of a news piece for those who aren't familiar, and just to catch the audience up, because we may do breakout episodes or not, depending on who wants to watch it. But this is the first superhero hour-long animated adventure being released. This is from Robert Kirkman, who did the comic book series for Invincible and Walking Dead. So this has an all-star cast, voice cast, as you can see here. Stephen Yeun, who was in The Walking Dead, J.K. Simmons, obviously J. Jonah Jameson, Mark Hamill, who we all know and love as Luke / the Joker, Sassy Beats, Deadpool 2, and the Joker movie, Sandra Oh, from Grey's Anatomy, Seth Rogen, comedic genius, Walton Goggins. He's been in a couple great things. He's on The Unicorn right now, but he used to be on Justified, and he's been in Walton Goggins, he was on Westworld, and he was Trevor in GTA 5. I'm thinking of the wrong guy. But yeah, another great dude. Jason Mantzoukas, John Wick 2, and Jillian Jacobs. I'm not familiar with Jillian, but this cast is going to be stellar. And it looks like it's going to be a great adventure. So Nick and I may do breakout episodes, since they will be hour long. But we'll see who wants to get in on that when the time comes. But March 26th, March is really shaping up to be a big busy month, with this dropping at the end of the month, and Godzilla vs. Kong also dropping relatively the same weekend. And great segue for the next segment of Zack Snyder's Justice League. We got a confirmed release date of March 18th dropping, as well as a new and improved synopsis. So I'm going to read it to everybody before we get in to break it down. So the syllabus, or not syllabus. I'm so caught up in school this week that I keep saying syllabus, but it's the synopsis. In Zack Snyder's Justice League, determined to ensure Superman's ultimate sacrifice was not in vain, Bruce Wayne aligns forces with Diana Prince with plans to recruit a team of metahumans to protect the world from an approaching threat of catastrophic proportions. The task proves more difficult than Bruce imagined, as each of the recruits must face the demons of their own past to transcend that which has held them back, allowing them to come together, finally forming an unprecedented League of Heroes. Now united, Batman, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, Cyborg, and The Flash may be too late to save the planet from Steppenwolf, Desaad, and Darkseid and their dreadful intentions. So, I thought that was a pretty cool synopsis. We also got a look at posters today. There was 3 ones released. One pays homage to Death and Return of Superman. And then a couple other ones were really acknowledging other. This one's kind of just iconic imagery, and then this one is acknowledging about the Snyder Cut actually being real, with Reborn, Risen, and Fallen. So, what are our thoughts on that? I'll pull the synopsis back up in case we need to read it word for word again. Or actually, it went away, so whatever. But
You go first, Ronnie.
yeah, Ronnie.
When we're talking, what you said, March 28th or March 18th?
March 18th is the release date for the Snyder Cut. All 4 hours of it will drop on HBO Max, and then 26th,
2021 or 2022?
21. 2 months from now.
Oh wow,
less than 2 months.
Jeez, that's exciting. I don't know why I had the preconceived notion that it was coming out next year, but I'd rather have it sooner than later, and
Exactly.
that's exciting. I've never seen Justice League. You know that. I never saw Justice League. I was always planning to watch it, and I kept pushing it off. I just never got to it, and you want this to be my first screening, so it's just interesting and exciting to finally see what that movie, or at least what people intended it to be, is going to look like, and then maybe I'll go back and see the original and just see what. I think that's really exciting, especially 2 months away. That's very little time, and
He'll be
I don't know.
here
I think it's good. It gives me good faith that they're on the right track.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's supposed to be HBO Max and in theaters. So day and date, that's not moving. It is firm. So
That was good.
it's gonna be really exciting. I love that Desaad, Darkseid, and Steppenwolf were all mentioned in that synopsis. So I really think this is gonna blow a lot of people's minds. Nick and I watched the movie on release date with our family, and we were kind of lukewarm coming out of it. And then after realizing that this wasn't the movie it was intended to be, I've really been on board the Snyder Cut since practically the start, and you can affirm that.
Oh yeah, he's
Right.
definitely been pro Snyder and seen his vision through, even though it might not have had the greatest public reception. It's definitely let the creator tell the story, and at the end then judges their work instead of changing it halfway through when he needs the entire time to actually show what he wanted to show.
Yeah, so it's looking like there's going to be a lot of footage that wasn't in the original movie that'll be released, because this is 4 hours. The original movie was 2 hours, and Zach himself said that what we saw in the original cut, even though he's never watched it, was only a quarter of what he shot. And he intended for things to be drastically different, so I'm very interested to see what story beats change and what new things we're going to see, because we've already had confirmation that the Colonel from Man of Steel and Batman vs. Superman returns, but he has been hiding on Earth for years and is John Jones, a.k.a. Martian Manhunter. And it's going to be great. And there was rumors that the Green Lanterns were supposed to appear. I saw another rumor this week from a reliable source that more than one of them was supposed to appear. It was supposed to be Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart. And I'm just excited to see what he's done, because he's put some reshoots together. So I'm just excited for this movie to finally be on our hands. Matt, do you have any closing thoughts before we hit our final story?
Yeah, I mean, Justice League's always been funny for me because I originally was gonna see it in theaters, and then like a minute in, as soon as you see like Batman, we immediately left the theater. I don't know why. I think we were with like girls or something, and they didn't want to watch it. But it was funny because even like I took a plane later on. I think it was one of these past summers, and Justice League was on there. And I would see like I watched a bit of it, but I didn't like it. I didn't even bother finishing it. I moved on to a different movie. I don't know if there's a lot of hype for this, but they're still gonna keep the same scenes and the same things I already saw that I didn't necessarily like. So is adding more gonna make it better? That's what I like. I don't understand where people are coming from completely with what they're expecting, but I'll watch that in its entirety when it comes out.
Yeah, I mean, I get that. If you weren't a big fan, you're certainly not gonna be a fan now. But I think.
Oh, I'm a fan of DC movies. Don't get me wrong.
No, I know, and we've talked about this not on camera before, but we have disagreeing opinions on where we like our characters to be in that world.
For sure.
But I can talk about this all day. We'll of course get into this more as the Snyder Cut approaches. I'm sure we're going to see another trailer probably pretty soon, especially because synopsis dropped and 3 new posters. So the promo reel, the promotional tour is going to start really soon. So let's get into our final story. This broke as we finished last week's episode, so I apologize that it wasn't in last week's news. But Thanos co-creator teased his return in the Eternals movie. So Jim Starlin, creator of Thanos, confirmed in the latest episode of the Phase Zero podcast that the Mad Titan will have a guest appearance in Eternals, but he suddenly backtracked his comment by saying that he just read it somewhere. So it looks to me like he realized what he said and then backtracked it. But I believe it's real, because there's been rumors that he's been in it since it started production, and it would make a lot of sense for him to be featured in this movie. Do we have any
real reason for him to not be featured?
True. I don't know about featured, but yeah, definitely
to be a part, some cameo, definitely tied to the whole Eternals and that whole subsection of the Marvel universe.
Yeah. Do you have any thoughts on this, Matt?
About Thanos guest appearance in Eternals?
Yeah, just if he comes back, if we see him again, do you think that's a good call, or do you think he should just be kind of kept dead at this point? And I mean, for before I say this, I don't think it's our Thanos that we killed in Endgame. It's a younger Thanos from a different time, because there's been rumors that Eternals kind of hops around in the timeline chronologically. So go ahead.
If they're consistent with who the actor is or was, and he looks similar, just like younger, I guess, I think a little cameo would be dope.
Cool. Ronnie?
I feel like, all right, so as long as it's between the Eternals jumping like through time, like this is in the past or something, if that's the case, I'm fine with it. Just because, from my understanding, when Iron Man snapped, he erased all like things from like timelines from every kind of existence, right? Or was I mistaken with am I mistaken in believing that?
I don't think he erased Thanos himself from every timeline. I think it was more
because the way I understood it was like, because they already killed their Thanos, and this Thanos was from another split timeline that came to try to, like the Endgame Thanos is not the same Thanos from Infinity War, technically speaking.
Yeah.
So what was the case with that? Because would it really be that difficult?
I think it was
to
just
snap
that.
Just one guy away?
I think it was just that Thanos, because they were about ready to lose. So Iron Man just snapped that one and the whole army out of existence.
Really?
And brought back. I think the bigger thing was that he brought back. Actually, no, everybody was already brought back at that point, so I don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, Hulk brought them back. Yeah. And I mean, Iron Man snapped.
You could be right. I'm not entirely sure.
Okay, well, if I'm wrong and Thanos, like all of Thanos's weren't snapped, I think it's a weary call to try to bring back this character. At least in a present timeline, just because it gives these it's gonna give people this weird inclination, I feel like, of oh, if he's not really dead, or is he back? Is he gonna be the next big bad villain again?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think I'm edgy about this one. As long as if it's something like them in the past, and they kind of see him when he was more of a younger person, kind of his coming up story, just for a smidge, that's fine. Yeah. I have no issue with that. It just connects everything even better. But I would just prefer it not be in our present timeline, post Thanos, post the snap, post everything. That's just my personal opinion, because I feel like it would just be very confusing for general audiences, and also just kind of convolute a lot of things that don't need to be convoluted anymore.
I like that.
Yeah, no. I agree. But we'll see. I thought it was an interesting little piece that got confirmed / leaked after last week's show. So since we're recording so late on a Friday, I doubt we're going to have any breaking news after we finish recording. But let's get into this week's episode, man. This week's episode was huge for only being a half hour. There was lots of questions that were answered and plenty more questions that were brought up, but I really enjoyed this week's episode. Let's. Normally, we always start with Ronnie. I want to give Matt the floor this time. What did you think about this week's episode?
What did I think? Well, first off, I love I love it when they tie in the whole. I mean, we saw it in Spider-Man when people were disappearing for the first time. I love it when they show the whole reappearance and disappearance of the people either before the snap or after. This might be other than the Endgame one, I think this is the first time you actually see people coming back. So that was dope. I thought that looked cool. The whole scene is pretty they set it up it felt intense. I liked the whole hospital thing. It was chaotic. No one knew what was happening. Overall, if we're talking about the episode and the whole episode itself, I think we all got sick of the little sitcom thing. Not sick of it in a bad way, but it was dragging on to the point where I don't even want to say it was dragging on. I feel like this was the perfect moment to introduce something else, and that's what I predicted, and that's what happened. And it was now or never for that. I feel like it was a good call, and just showing what was actually happening outside, connecting all the clues we saw before with the little helicopter, everything else. It was about time, and they did that perfectly. I really liked this episode. I liked the characters being reintroduced, the one from Ant-Man, the one from Thor. The Thor one was funny to me. That made me laugh. A few of the things she said and stuff like that. I don't know. I just enjoyed this episode. It was good.
I agree. Ronnie, go ahead.
I feel like there's a lot of things to talk about, but I want to really piggyback off of Matt's whole the snap, the blip back, just because I feel like we saw a little bit of in Spider-Man, but not really to this extent. Because with Spider-Man, I feel like we just saw little. It was more used as a punchline. I feel like, if I remember correctly, it was just coming back randomly.
Yeah,
but with this, you really felt
basketball game. Kind of all the band people appeared.
Yeah, exactly. With this, you really just felt that kind of chaos. That because I remember specifically after Endgame happened, everyone was theorizing or making jokes about oh, what would happen if you came back in this situation, or if someone came back in this situation. I feel like this really showed a good grasp of that, especially in a hospital where everything's so compact and so stressed already, and just seeing people not know where people are. People have died in the past, loved ones that should have been alive, and I just felt like that scene was done so well. I watched the episode 2 times, and that was just a scene that just kept me really encapsulated in this episode. And I feel like that's one of the strongest suits of this, just it ties it together to the whole universe as a whole. Aside from that, I just enjoyed seeing all the connection, the ties. Like Matt said, the characters that were brought back in this episode were played really well for their roles, and I feel like again, it just does a good job at tying the whole universe together. And aside from that, it's just really cool seeing how little things from Sword dripped into Wanda's world, and vice versa. So yeah.
I'll go last here, so I want to let Nicky get his thoughts out.
I had a smile ear to ear when that was happening, of just how cool it is, of how much the show is being connected to everything, and how important it is. When it was like, oh, that's cool. It's a cool idea that they're doing something with Wanda and Vision, and it should be interesting to see how. But it's it's so connected, and I think it replicated the intro, the energy you felt at the end of the Infinity War, when you're seeing the snap, the people disappearing from the street level with Fury and her name escapes me, but it's just seeing Maria Hill, with the helicopter crash and then cars just swerving off on the side of the road. That chaotic energy just was almost replicated perfectly with the people coming back this time, and I just thought it was really good.
I want to. Everybody's hit on some really great points, but for me, there was 2 moments in the episode that really, actually, there was a lot, but there was two moments that I want to point out just before we start really breaking down it scene by scene of that intro sequence is. We talked last week about the last 2 to 3 minutes being such a masterclass of acting, and I think the intro sequence of this week before the Marvel credits sequence was another masterclass of just pieces being brought together. It was a beautiful way of bringing story beats back from Endgame and characters that we hadn't seen since Captain Marvel when she was young. She was, 9 to 10 in that? And now we see her in her mid-20s coming back from the blip. And the second she fades back in, you know exactly where they're going for it. And you know the feeling that they're trying to get you to, of this, the eeriness of, like, what is going on? And why is she in the hospital? And it was really stellar. And I love that. And then on a lighter note, the second piece that I really just think of when I think about this episode is when Randall Park pulls the card out of his sleeve, and it's the callback to Ant-Man and the Wasp when Paul Rudd goes, or when he asks Ant-Man, and goes, "How'd you learn that?" And he's like, "Online magic school." And it's like you see him doing the online magic school in a little scene, and he's kind of really crap at it, and then you see him doing this, and he just pulls it out of his sleeve like this, and it's like, it's these really great things that it's like, if I saw that happen in another show, I would have been like, that's lame. Like, this guy's weird. But instead, this time I see it, and it goes, it just makes me fall in love with this universe even more. So, we've touched a lot on the intro sequence. I took some notes this week while I was watching, so I kind of have a little beat for beat thing of things for us to talk about. So,
next big point is like what we saw with the sword.
Yeah. So we saw a lot in that intro couple minutes and about what sword is. There was a lot real quick that I'm not sure everybody quite picked up on. General audience and us, because I didn't pick up on some of it. I saw it later. But Sentient Weapon Observation Response Division. We officially have the acronym spelled out for us, and we got confirmation that Monica Rambeau's mother was part of the founding members of SWORD, or one of the founders. So we started getting a lot of pieces, and originally they were much more of a research division, and now they're shifting more into weapons and cosmic events. So was anybody surprised or intrigued by what we got revealed here? Matt or Ronnie?
Matt.
Go ahead.
No, we can do Matt first.
All right. I don't have too many thoughts on it. I mean, they really made it known. They kept saying sword, sword, sword to really get the message across. But yeah, I get it. Sword. I don't know. I don't know enough about it. I really don't. So I can't really say much about it yet. But Ronnie, go ahead.
I found it, now that I know what you, like, everything, the acronym that you said it stands for, I feel like it makes a lot of sense, because I think one big question I had about Sword throughout most of the episode, just this series in general, is kind of where were they throughout the rest of the phases in the Marvel Universe, considering the fact that they're going to be such a big enterprise of people who investigate what's going on in this world. Why weren't they there in these previous phases? And I feel like kind of detailing that acronym kind of gives you that idea of, oh, they weren't supposed to be a SHIELD back then, but now that SHIELD is gone, I feel like this is kind of showing why the steps of them becoming the next version of that in this universe. So yeah.
I like the point that Matt made about how it was repeated so often, and I think that was more for general audiences who had probably seen the logo and been like, "What the hell is that?" And it wasn't so much for the hardcore fans that were like, "Oh, we've been theorizing about this since the trailer for the show dropped, and since we saw it in the episode." So it was like, we all are kind of getting into this thing of we know what it is, so we also kind of have to consider when things are done for the general audience, or just to make sure story beats are clear, because Sword is going to be obviously a very clear entity in the MCU as we move forward. So I think it was just more, when we talked about Shield a lot, they said their name a lot, so it's kind of like the same thing. Did you have any thoughts on that?
Thinking about it, of how they were talking between the director and Monica about how Monica had space missions already. Where mine goes is Fantastic Four. Of Reed Richards has his own company, and it's kind of like that Tony Stark Shield connection. Of some of their tech was found in Sword, and how it's going to be the same thing. And I think it might be mid-snap. There was a research mission by Sword with Reed Richards, the Thing, Human Torch, and the Invisible Woman. And I think, I don't know, it's really cool to me. Of like the idea that they had, it's like the Shield was the secret agency, secret spies of the government, and the Swords the secret scientists of Shield. Of like how it's just secrecy on top of secrecy.
Nerd.
As the audience, we're only now learning about it.
I really like that theory. We'll keep track of that as we get closer to Fantastic Four, and hopefully we're still doing the show at that point. But yeah,
let's have it snapped away.
I can see it in your face. The second you started talking, I was like, he's pulling predictions out of his. He's just making it up right now, and I'm so here for it. So I mean, the next biggest thing is we can start talking about chemistry between actors in the show. Randall Park,
just the comedy beats,
and Monica Rambeau. They had their little interaction. We see Randall Park have a lot of interactions with the boss of Sword, and we also see him and Darcy. And I really love Darcy. Darcy is the girl from Thor, which I was kind of like, I'm sitting there watching. I'm like, why are they like not telling her what's going on? And then I realized nobody actually knew what was going on, so Darcy was the one that figured it out. Because originally when she pulled up, I was like, do they know Wanda's in there? And it's like, no.
Yeah.
No, they didn't know Wanda was in there. So, but I love the interactions. Randall Park, he was really kind of weird and annoying in Ant-Man and the Wasp, but now that he's back in this thing,
he's comedic relief.
Like, I appreciate Randall. And I'm like, I just want to see more of him right now. So, anybody else? Sus. Okay. Yeah, call me Sus. That's fine with me.
Can I just say that when Darcy said, I guess a scene that really resonated with me was when she said, "Where's my coffee?" Like, it spoke more than words to me. I really connected with that.
Is
I don't even drink coffee.
Is that because you
I really felt
referencing Thor?
You call that guy a Boy Scout leader? That shit was cinematic art, bro. Like, I know Christopher Nolan has done some good work with The Dark Knight, but nothing that tops that line.
Wow.
Like,
right, we're teasing me right now, and I'm okay with it.
She said no one cares to him right after. That shit was hilarious.
Ronnie, do you have any thoughts on the chemistry between our new characters or our reintroduced characters this week?
I actually really liked it. Like I said before, I thought it was a really good idea. Not a good idea, but a good idea. Just kind of connecting the world together more and more, especially with these side characters, kind of giving them more of an actual fleshed out version of themselves, kind of almost like a Nick Fury or Maria Hill.
Or a
and I feel like
in Phase 1.
Yeah, that's true. And I just feel like having had them come around like that, it just makes this world feel tighter and more close-knit. And there's nothing more that you love about the cinematic universe than when they do moments like that, even with just background characters. And so I feel like it was a really good idea. It really gives these new characters new life, different personality, especially with Randall Park's character. Having him go from just being this average cop, kind of, not cop, but like, just checking on Ant-Man and his house arrests over and over, and then kind of giving him this bigger role in the FBI. He's going to actually do a big investigation with something that's no one understands. And also, especially with, I forget her name again, but the Thor side character was
Darcy.
Her name? Darcy. Giving Darcy kind of this more, I feel like in most Thor movies, she was kind of just like the background assistant, and that's kind of what her role was. And I feel like giving her the spotlight in this kind of just gives her more of that importance that I feel like other side characters need in this universe. And I think I just really appreciated it.
Yeah, I mean, she really got relegated. And then oh dear, Ronnie disconnected. When she starts talking about how, or she's like, I'm a doctor or whatever. I'm like, yeah, nobody really emphasized how smart these people were when they were introducing Thor, and I'm like,
I might be misremembering here.
she was an undergrad.
But
she was
she was an English major or something,
yeah.
and she needed the credit. And I thought I might be completely misremembering it, but I kind of, in my head, it's like she was going on a completely different path in her life, and then the events of Thor, it just completely shifted, and now she's quick on the beat, and she figures out the thing almost immediately, and it kind of it builds her character, because she was kind of like she was the Carrie in the first movie, and then she had her boy toy in the second movie be the Carrie for all the equipment. But I just found it funny of how she's become the scientist from the person who was like, I don't want to be here. I'm here for my credit, and that's it.
Yeah, those are some really great points, and I think we're all glad this week really was a nice change of pace. I would have been okay with it going to the 80s and whatever, but I'm glad they didn't. When I made that prediction last week of like, here, let me pull up my words exactly. Outside world will be the first thing we see, and I was like, I didn't really believe myself when I said it, and then I was watching the episode, and I was like, I was right. No shot. And I was like, yeah.
Gang, gang.
So I mean,
another sitcom would have not been good, dude. It would have been too dragged.
Yeah, I definitely think they know what they're doing.
Yeah, it was great, because even when they're trying to figure out what the hell's going on, and Randall Park's sitting at the board writing things down, he's asking questions that we would be asking, that the audience is asking. Is this their reality? Why is it hexagonal shape? Is Vision alive? What's going on? Are these kids real? Like what is happening? Like,
dude, I'm telling you, as soon as I saw that first scene, I was like, here we go. I sat down. There was a smile on my face. I was like, yes, finally.
Yeah.
Shit's about to go down.
Joe, I'm with you with the whole. I would have been fine with another 80s episode, and I would have been fine with that. But like Matt said, when I saw that intro, dude, like that 80s episode, it's like, no, like Matt said, when I saw that intro, like I was so pissed, bro. I was waiting for the 80s. I could have not imagined anything better. Like, as much as I would have been fine with an 80s episode, I feel like they really blew me away with this episode. And I feel like having had that whole connection with that, it really just drew me back into that series tenfold. And I feel like it gave me a new excitement that I didn't have before, even if I thought I had it. And I just feel like that's one thing that they did really good with the pacing of this. So,
yeah, we can give them nothing but props so far in this show, that they're really delivering on all fronts right now. It makes me interested to see where they go from here, of if they're going to keep, is it more going to be a 75-25 balance, or are they going to keep it with a 90-10 of real world stuff? But we'll get more into that in the predictions and whatnot. But we have a couple more beats that we should probably talk about before. I mean, really one big beat, where they really kind of do explain that Wanda, as I talked about last week, it's looking like Wanda did this herself and is sort of being shaped up as the villain of what's going on. She's taken a whole town of 3,000 some odd people and is kind of holding them hostage. And it's like, she ain't, like, she's not exactly good. She's playing definitely a more anti-hero role this time, so I'm very interested to see where that goes. But the whole scene at the end where she throws Monica out, and it's more of like, I was looking at it and I'm like, is this another case of what we're gonna change slightly what we saw last time? And it's like, no, I'm gonna expand what's going on. Or it's like, she's very protective of what's going on in the simulation, and then she's looking at the two kids and turns around, and Vision's there, and Vision's more of like a gray, washed out, purpley thing,
I love that.
With the
That was
hole
dope.
in his head, and it looked like it was like unfinished CGI. I was like, "What the hell? Yes!" And then I'm like, and
That was
then
dope.
the way they phrase the dialogue, where he's like, Vision's like, "We can go anywhere," and it's just like, "No, we can't. This is our home. I'm protecting us," and I'm like, "This is." They're laying down some very particular beats that it's like, she may come out of this and be like, especially as we're getting more toward the middle, and we're already at episode 8 or 4 of 9, so we're getting toward the halfway point where it's like a lot of things are, stakes are being raised highly and quickly. That the connection between this and Doctor Strange 2 and Spider-Man 3 may in fact be that Wanda really messes some shit up, and it's like she gets kind of taken aside and gone, "You messed up. We got to fix this now." So I want to let Ronnie give his thoughts on that, because I know everybody's got thoughts on this, but let's make sure everybody gets their time. Deshaun.
All right, with that, yeah, so I'm watching it. I've been watching it with other people as well, the series, and I feel like a lot of people, or a lot of things that I've seen, is people kind of giving that opinion of like, oh, maybe she is the villain. In my head, I kind of take this more anti-hero approach, like you said, kind of like she's more in a place of hurt, and this is just kind of her way of quote unquote healing. Obviously, not in a good or healthy way at all, but I definitely feel like this is not a place of villainy. She's not doing this like of any kind of pure hatred or anger of people. I think it's more of just kind of like a mental state thing for her. And as far as that goes, that's where I'm at with her. I don't think she's a full-on villain. I feel like this is just going to be a story of kind of understanding her and what she's done. I do like your theory on how she may be the reason that everything does mess up. She could be the catalyst for the whole Phase 4, and I really do like that idea. I never thought about that before. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's all interesting to see her character develop more. I kind of thought we always knew that this was kind of her construction, and I never thought that maybe there was some outside character. It was always hinted at, but was never too sure of that. But yeah, I'm just really excited to see where it's going to go. If she does end up becoming a villain, you can call me wrong, but I don't think she will be. I think it'll be more this kind of let's control her, let's figure her out kind of situation. And there could be this could just be a bait and switch too by Marvel. They've done this before, I feel like, with other characters, where we're gonna start thinking she's more of a villain, and she ends up not being the main thing. And I don't know. I just think we got to see it through.
Yeah.
As for that Vision scene, that was probably one of my favorite scenes. I'm just gonna say that right now. That shit actually scared me a little bit when I saw it happen, because I was not expecting it. And so seeing that gray scale, I was like, oh, bro. I love horror movies, but there has not been a good horror movie in a good past while that has given me that same reaction when seeing Vision like that. I was like, damn, that's crazy.
It was very guttural, and not guttural, but it was very much you saw that, and it hit you, and you were like that's just not right. I mean, I watched you watch that, and you were like, oh, what's going on?
Yeah, it's interesting because it's like, do the other people see him like that? And they can't. It's just they can't process it, but they're not.
It's kind of like we're trapped here with her and stuff. Matt, what do you got? What does she need?
Well, I'll start off giving my thoughts on that one scene, because I did really, really like that. I agree with Ronnie. It definitely got me a little on edge. But at the same time, I smile, because that's exactly the kind of stuff I want to see in shows like these. As far as Wanda being the villain, I don't think... I agree with Ronnie again on the fact that I don't think Wanda means bad on other people. I think we're seeing a character who suffered a lot going through her life, and I think, with the loss of her brother, loss of Vision, obviously, I think this is kind of a time for her to be a little selfish in what she wants to, and how she wants to live her life. So she's creating this reality. I don't think she wants to kill anyone. I don't see this whole villain thing going down, but potentially, if it does happen, I think this is a good startup for that. It could, if it progresses past this, like, I'm kind of tripping on my words here, but let's just say I can definitely see her becoming a villain in the long run, but for now, I don't see her as this evil character.
I mean, when I say villain, I definitely don't think they're gonna hook it up as a villain, but it's more like I don't know. I definitely feel like there's some weird things that they're playing at here, and it's very much on purpose of like holding the audience accountable to being like, what exactly do you think is going on right now? And sorry if I look distracted. I was trying to find the set picture of her in Doctor Strange 2, but I can't find it with a quick Google search. But for me, it's, and we talked about this a lot last week, so I don't want to harp on it too much. They're playing with a lot of really interesting things, and what we saw this week with how they switched it to start answering some questions, I think eventually we're going to see a lot of these answers of how it's going on, and I think they're going to be really satisfying answers, and it's going to be really interesting considering we've never really seen a superhero character in the MCU held up in this kind of like
gray light,
really flawed and gray light. Because if you look at back in the Iron Man comics, where it was like Tony struggled with his sobriety and he was a drunk and a womanizer and all those things, and it was like, I mean, we dealt with PTSD in some extent after Avengers in Iron Man 3, but we haven't really hit on a lot of these heavy topics, and I wonder if this is where Marvel kind of seizes the opportunity there and goes, okay, let's start talking about some stuff. And it's like, is this what we talk about when it comes to trauma and depression and coping and all that kind of stuff? And with our fantastical elements around it, it makes it more of like an easier pill to swallow. But it's more, I definitely think there's some interesting thematic and story elements at play here. Nick, do you wanna give us your final thoughts before we move on to predictions?
Yeah, I think most of what I wanted to say was pretty much covered already. Of like, definitely think they're using the grayness of the story that they're telling to really tell something different from the Marvel has had the criticisms against them of being a cookie cutter. You do this, the villain is the opposite of color scheme, that have the same suit, or it's the same powers, whatever, but it's pretty much, you can break down most of the general movies to having a very similar structure. And I definitely I'm really interested because of how I'm pretty sure they're going to use these shows to tell those different stories that may span some of the more cookie cutter movies, but to create complexity along the way that audiences may feel that are lacking in between them.
I mean, following up on that point, I think this is really why they decided to start making shows, because that involved main characters, because obviously they made Daredevil and all the Defenders shows and whatnot, but in those shows they handled some really mature topics, and they did it with some great depth and tone, but we didn't really get to see that with our main characters that they've been developing for the past 23 films. And I think this is really where this starts to shine of why the television medium has a lot of depth, whether it be through animated TV or high level TV with your networks and whatnot. But I think this is why Disney Plus shows were brought in, and it's a really strong showing to start us off with. Anybody have some final thoughts before we move on to predictions?
I kind of just want to talk about Nick's point and how I feel like it's something that I really do appreciate, kind of the idea of it, because I never thought about it like that before. And I feel like Marvel movies have gotten a lot of criticism for taking the artistry away from the movie industry, having this cookie-cutter format, which, although I will say most of their movies, if interconnected, do have some kind of overarching themes or forms of motifs and stuff like that. And I feel like they do distribute that well across their universe. But you can only tell so much in just a 2-hour film. And I feel like with series, it really does help us build this deeper bond and also just this depth with these characters to really see how these things build in their head or build with time and see how it all comes together in their mind as a character study almost. So I really do like Nick's point on that. And I feel like I do hope that these Marvel series take a step in that direction to kind of just take these deeper topics and really flesh them out for these characters.
And I think you can kind of almost look it towards the future with what we see now and kind of almost say for what we know that's going to happen, you can kind of see the same things of like here, Wanda's definitely, they're dealing with loss. In Bucky and, Winter Soldier and Falcon, they're going to be dealing with loss. Like Bucky and Falcon are both going to be like, they're not, or like imposter syndrome. They're like, we're not Cap. We are not Steve. We don't have that moral, that just high ground that he has, the ability to be so sure in his actions that he is always going to do the right thing and then move forward to like
fucking sidekick. That's what they are.
And then like with Loki, of how we've seen that redemption arc with the Loki we knew, but this is a different Loki. So we're going to see the greed and the struggle for power, and then maybe we end up getting Loki back to what we knew him as he's like humbled throughout the way, and he realizes his place. And I
don't know about greed in that one because I think he's being forced into different things. But I think he will learn some stuff.
Yeah.
No, I really like the points you're making.
The greed was the word that came to mind.
No,
but and then
some
other shows are escaping me, but like with Moon Knight, they're gonna deal with mental health in that because the strong.
He's a schizophrenic character.
Yeah, his character is schizophrenic, so it's like you can tell that they're gonna have these different stories. That it's gonna just focus on just deeper topics, in my opinion.
We're getting into religion with Miss Marvel. You're gonna get into Hawkeye. You're gonna be dealing with mentoring in a totally different light because we really haven't had that same mentoring of like
giving it up,
Batman and Robin, and giving up the mantle and stuff like that. But this is more of like, I'm too old for this. I gotta stop. I got like, 4 kids back at home on a ranch.
He lost his best friend.
I've lost a lot. I gotta go take care of what I got. So this is a really big groundwork for Phase 4, and I think
exciting stuff.
It's a really great place to start. Matt, do you have any thoughts? I know we kind of cut you off a couple times.
My bad.
Oh no, you're good. If anything, I cut you guys off. I think Nick was really well said. What he said overall about we're going to be hitting these deep topics now, and I mean, I only got a few glimpses of that throughout all of the Marvel movies we've seen. I think Iron Man's the best example of kind of going deeper and, really his progression as a character because he matured a lot. But, Captain America, I can see why people say cookie cutter. I you know what I mean? But overall, the more we hit on these big topics, I think Marvel's only going up from here, and they haven't done anything wrong. So, yeah.
And I want to clarify, obviously there's some very much formulaic elements to a Marvel movie, but there's some great artistry in a lot of the films.
Like in the high-level films.
In the Guardian films.
High-rated films, excuse me.
And whatnot. I just want to make sure we're clear that they let the creators play in their sandboxes.
And I'm not, that's not an opinion of my own. I enjoy the movies for what they are, because it's like, that's not their intention to make these thought-provoking movies. They're there to make us enjoy ourselves and tell stories about our favorite characters. If they want to tell us something more heartfelt, they'll tell us that with something else in a Disney product. They do that with Pixar all the time. Marvel, you're supposed to be entertained at the end of the day. But I also think they
There's a lot of heart in Marvel movies.
But I think
it goes underrated. It doesn't have to be
Black
a Zack
Panther would be-
Snyder epic to get the heart across. But
predictions time. Ronnie, what are your predictions?
I was wrong the last time, so just my prediction will be both what I say and also the complete opposite of what I say.
Bet I'm gonna make the opposite of what you say then.
I think
Nick's taking the.
I feel like
One of them has
I
to
feel
be
like
right if you do that.
Wait, let me get this right.
Nick is
Stop talking.
Nick is
He
shorting the
can't
bet.
I'm shorting you. I'm
So
right at
like,
your Wall Street.
I looked at like 1.4 million different realities in which this series continues, and there's only one in which it goes like the way that I'm thinking about. So I think that now that we've kind of stepped outside of this Wanda world, there's no going back. I feel like, yeah, they could give us another 80s episode, like just a baseline Wanda and Vision kind of thing. But I feel like now that they've kind of crossed this barrier, they kind of have to keep sticking with it in some way or another. So I feel like for this next episode, it's just a very basic prediction, but I think it's going to be a lot of 50-50. Kind of, we'll see Wanda's side of it for a little bit, or maybe even, I was thinking either it's going to be Wanda's side for the first half, and then maybe the second half is the outside world, or maybe it'll be cut up. Like we'll see some of that Wanda stuff, and it'll zoom out, and you'll see kind of the outside world and back to Wanda and back and forth and back and forth. But that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking we're still going to see this Wanda world progress into the 80s and the decades as they come. I just feel like we're going to get more snippets of this outside world as we go with it.
Yeah, I feel like that's a pretty safe prediction.
Yeah, because it's like now that we know that they're studying the show, I think it definitely show us of like when some big plot point happens in the episode. I would think that's a good bet to think that they're gonna show the outside world and what happens.
Oh, and real quick. I'm going to keep holding my position about Vision questioning it. I feel like there's going to be one episode, and I feel like it's going to be the next one, where he's just going to be drilling in on Wanda, or at least in the world. Not Wanda, but maybe kind of looking at it more with this broader perspective, kind of saying this isn't real, even if he does or doesn't bring it up to Wanda. And I feel like we'll see more of that, because I feel like we saw a lot of that at the end of this episode as well.
I'll go because I don't want to steal everybody's, like I've been doing. I mean, I didn't because it was only me and Matt that were right, so I technically haven't stolen anyways from last week.
I'm pretty sure I said something last episode that was
ego,
right. I
the
just gave
ego
you guys a
this
chance
time,
this
man.
week.
You did trigger me into saying something, but
He was triggered.
not triggered that way, but resulting cause and effect.
My words planted the seed in his head.
Okay, your
seed of curiosity.
Mine or yours? Mine or his?
I hear what he said. The seed.
Oh, mine. His. I was like, I think for me, we've very clearly seen that this thing is going to start to fold in on itself. We do have to consider that there are 4 more episodes after next week's episode, so we've got 5 including next week. I don't think we're going to get a whole lot of movement next week. I think we may shift back to a timeline thing. I don't think it'll be entirely. And there may be a cut at the end of, similarly to the first 3. But I think episode 5 is going to be back to. It's just in my head. I'm thinking, does it start shortening? Do 80s and 90s get crammed in next week, and then we do episode 6? Our 2000s episode is really kind of the end, and the simulation kind of breaks, and then 7, 8, 9. I don't know. They're asking a lot of questions, and I think that we're going to go back to more of a Wanda and Vision focus, because I definitely think Ronnie's right in some sense of Vision's going to start asking more questions, but I don't think we're quite there yet, because, I mean, this could be a total case of Infinity War, but in that trailer, when Wanda goes up to, or when Vision goes up to Agnes when she's sitting in the car, that it looked very modern, that wasn't dated. So I'm thinking that's more of a 2000 current era thing. So I don't think we're quite there yet. But I don't know. I'll stick with. We're gonna go back to more of a Wanda focus with a small percentage of outside world. But I'll let Nick cap us off because Matt, you already won, right?
No, I didn't. I'll go after Nick though.
Okay. I think we're gonna see something with Agnes.
You think the villain plays? I think that's a good call.
Yeah, and I think it's gonna be
If that is the villain.
If it is, but I think it's gonna be some scene between her and Wanda is gonna be very telling towards the overall plot, and I don't know if it's gonna be the same thing because how she questioned about Monica to Vision. I think the same kind of questioning will be because since her and it's Herb, that's the UFC.
It's just Herb.
It's Herb. Okay.
Herb Dean.
Yeah, but I think them realizing it, I think she's gonna bring something to Wanda about it, and I think, yeah, I'm gonna go with that.
I think that's a good call. I was thinking about that earlier in the episode. I was like, low key. Matt, close us out on our predictions.
Close us out. Well, it's football season. Super Bowl this February. I'm going to play it safe, and I think she's just going to fucking Hail Mary her baby straight into reality. That's exactly what I'm thinking is going to happen. But, no, I'm playing. As far as predictions, I think they're going to continue with the 80s thing. And I'll agree with Ronnie. I think it's going to be 50-50. I think initially we're going to see the 80s, and then later on it's going to jump back in, and we're going to see them getting further and further into what's happening and solving more questions. So, yeah.
Yeah, I just don't know about 50-50. I feel like they have to pose more questions to the audience. There's got to be more information revealed.
Oh, and just I just want to, for my prediction thing, they when they were this episode, they were identifying each person in the town.
You think the Agnes thing is gonna...
They never... I might have missed...
She was on the board.
She was? Damn it. Never mind. Ignore me. We're going on.
You don't think a background check can be run?
I was just thinking she's a mystical creature. She's not actually... Whatever.
She was on the board, though.
I missed it then. Moving on.
That was a good point. I would have thought the same thing. Was she on the board?
I didn't see it.
I may be wrong. I swear she was on the board. We'll figure it out. If they use it next week, we'll issue a correction, or we won't because I'll forget. But so we've kind of talked for a good little while about all the bits of this. No rumor report this week. Rumors were kind of lame, and I didn't feel like really scrounging the internet to find rumors. So I think we're just gonna do a short little segment of each of us goes around and says what we're kind of looking forward to outside of WandaVision for this upcoming week in the culture. So I'll let Ronnie start. Oh wait, since I just sprung this on you, do I need to start?
Well, I don't. What do you mean by that? Are we talking who
just like one thing you're looking forward to.
King Kong or Godzilla? Yeah, King Kong or Godzilla? King Kong or Godzilla? Who you got, Matt?
Monkey.
I want Kong. Yeah, monkey.
Yeah, Kong.
I'm gonna say Kong because if you think about it, they've called Godzilla the king of the monsters so far, and the only way King Kong gets his title king is he defeats Godzilla. Big brain plays out here.
You were big braining everything.
Big brain people.
Nick took a 2-hour nap and he came in with the hot ideas.
Or he's just like, I'm tired of these fucking Godzilla and King Kong movies. Goes on top of the Eiffel Tower and just commits suicide. I'm hoping something like that happens.
I don't know about that one.
We need to stop these movies, dude. We need to stop these movies.
What you mean, man?
Please. I'm tired of the big creature
2014
movies.
Godzilla was fire, Matt. Granted, I didn't watch last year.
Did you know they're actually going to make a Disney Plus series on King Kong?
They're not.
They're making a show about Skull Island.
Ronnie's crapping you. But
Did you see that?
Thank God.
yes, I did see that.
All right.
Oh.
So next week, we're going to introduce a smaller segment. It'll be more time for the Super Bowl event that is coming up next weekend. We'll do trailer predictions just to see what we're going to see at the big game. So everybody who's tuning in, watch out for that next week, as well as our episode 5 and breaking down the news from the week.
Patriots or Packers? Who's gonna win?
It's not the
Comment
Packers.
below.
The Packers lost. The Patriots aren't even in it. The
I don't watch
Bucs and
football.
the
Oh,
Chiefs.
God.
Chiefs.
Good
Tom
Lord.
Brady and the Patriots are so tied in my head.
Yeah.
All
right.
Last year,
Yes, the Chiefs won last year. They're trying to go back to back.
oh no, they're not trying to go back to back. They're trying to lose this year.
Oh, jeez. All right.
Got it.
I want to thank everybody for tuning in. We've had big love on the first episode, and I want to thank everybody who stuck around and has kept watching in the second. And I hope you guys come back for the third and next week's. We're gonna keep doing this for a long while. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. I want to apologize that Owen is not here. We will make sure we readjust the schedules harder next week, so all 5 will be here. I want to thank you guys for your time, and
Remember to like.
comment down below your thoughts on the episode, like the video, and if you're not already, subscribe and click notifications so you don't miss an episode of the Joey Plays Games podcast.
It's free.
It is free. We don't ask you for any money. Not yet.
As of now.
As
Well,
of this moment.
We'll get greedier.
Yeah, we will.
Patreon,
We'll
the
see you
whole
guys.
9 yards.
Yeah, we'll see you guys. We'll see you guys next week. Thanks.
Peace.
Peace.
Peace.